Today's collectible spot, we are having a look at the Super7 Masters of the Universe by the Power of Greyscale Edition action figures. You can see what they did there. It is colored figures, while these are being released now in Greyscale Edition. So instead of the Power of Greyskull, we have the Power of Greyscale. I would tip my virtual hat to the folks over at Super7. That's a very clever use of wording there. We're going to actually have a look at all four figures as opposed to having a look at them individually. And we're just going to lay these down. The figures don't sadly stand very well in cards, but we're going to have a look at these individually, and then we're going to open them up. This would be a prime example as to why you would want to get two sets of these. One set, and I've mentioned this before with other retro action figures, get one set that you can open up. Get the other set where you can keep them sealed, because I really would not want to open these up, especially if you only had the one. These are so cool to have on the card itself that definitely would get two sets of these if you can. So we have He-Man by the Power of Greyscale Edition action figure. The back of the package features all the figures available. Now you'll notice at the back of the package, the figures themselves are the original figures. It's not the retro action figures, so just a little bit different there. But for the read-up, we've got He-Man fights to protect the power of Castle Greyskull from Skeletor, the evil lord of destruction. Using the power sword given to him by the sorceress of Castle Greyskull, He-Man transforms from Prince Adam to the most powerful man in the universe and uses his fantastic strength to defeat Skeletor and his minions. There's He-Man. Next we have Skeletor. The bubble got a little smushed on this one, unfortunately. Comes also with his staff. The back of the package. Skeletor, the evil lord of destruction, battles endlessly to conquer Castle Greyskull and claim its powerful ancient secrets for himself, and with them rule Eternia. Skeletor is an extremely powerful dark sorcerer and uses his ram-headed Havoc staff to conjure the forces of evil from his lair at Snake Mountain. We have Merman. Merman, the evil ocean warlord of Eternia, pledges his allegiance to the mighty Skeletor. Merman answers Skeletor's call to arms, fighting to conquer Castle Greyskull from the water or land with the help of the aquatic creatures under his telepathic control. And finally, Beastman. Beastman, Skeletor's evil henchman, uses his telepathic control over creatures great and small to aid in the Master's quest to conquer Castle Greyskull. A fearsome fighter, with or without his animal allies, Beastman uses his whip to control beasts and enemies alike. Spot's going to take a break, and yes, I am going to open these up, because when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the Super7 Masters of the Universe by the Power of Greyscale Edition retro action figures. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more heading your way. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. I would suppose until you actually see my hand on camera, you might for a second believe this whole video is in black and white. I can assure you by the coloring of my hand it is not, but it's just so funny that with the gray background, the gray black and white figures, and the black and white accessories, it does for a second really throw you off to make you think that it could be maybe black and white. He-Man, sadly, is really outnumbered here. I mean, we've got Skeletor and we've got his minions. Poor He-Man's by himself, so he's going to have to get some allies. I'd love to see them, and I don't believe, I'm looking at the back of the package, I don't believe they've released these in any of the other Masters figures, so maybe down the road we might get... It'd be cool to kind of see this guy as a retro action Orko, or Man-at-Arms. For accessories, He-Man, of course, would come with his power sword. One side's a little more sculpted than the other. And again, you could like or dislike the ReAction figures, because really it's not everyone's cup of tea. If you grew up with kind of really retro action figures, I think these are pretty cool, because He-Man figures never really looked like this. They were always the bigger, bulkier, superposable figures. These are more in line with like something you would have seen from Kenner. So we can take the power sword and just put it into He-Man's hand. Doesn't come with an axe, nor does he come with a shield. but it comes with the one thing that you would need He-Man to have, and that's his power sword. Imagine they actually had done a Battle Cat reaction figure. I think that would have been cool too. But he is completely black and white. So even his skin color is kind of probably like more of an off-white color than gray. Or white, I should say, for that matter. The pants as well as, or the fur loincloth as well as his boots are not quite black. They're almost more of a bluish, off blue, kind of dark gray color. He's got lighter gray around the harness and the gauntlets. Face is pretty good as a larger figure scaled down and given us a more retro figure. It does look like He-Man. So good job there. Posability on He-Man, his arms do rotate all the way around. His head does rotate, and his legs rotate as well. Very limited, but that's exactly what the ReAction figures are. A throwback, if you will, to some of the figures that we would have grown up with, or at least this old guy would have grown up with. So there you have He-Man. Doesn't really stand. Well, actually, he will stand. Good. I was worried he wasn't going to stand. Next we have Skeletor, which is kind of creepy. He's got a really big head because, again, he's got the same sort of body as He-Man, which is exactly how they would have been in the original figures. But yeah, his head is a little on the big side. I guess to capture the fact that he's got the hood on, everything's kind of been made just a little bit bigger. He comes with his Havoc staff, which is a very faithful recreation, just more scaled down. More downgraded, I guess, in details. And you can take the Havoc staff and put it in Skeletor's hand. Again, that's the only accessory he comes with. Also would have been cool if he had come with the other half of the power sword that you could have attached, but sadly no. So there you have Skeletor. Posability would be exactly the same, but man oh man, what a creepy looking face. Creepy face on Skeletor. And we can put Skeletor. I don't think he's going to stand. Oh, maybe he will. Whew. Okay, he has stood. Next we have Merman. And Merman's accessory, much like the original figure, is his cob of corn. It's not really a cob of corn, but I always thought it looked like a cob of corn. His cob of corn sword, which again you can also put into Merman's hands. Depicting the less Merman from the series, more Merman from the figure. So again, his face kind of looks like a really surprised raccoon. All the armor on the figures, exactly a representation, a recreation of how they looked in the original figure form, just as a more scaled down retro designed line. And again, I really like these. I understand they're not everybody's cup of tea. But I do really like the ReAction figures. Posability on Merman, exactly the same. Head posable, rotation of the arms, and legs back and forth. So there you have Merman. I also would love to have seen Triclops in this treatment also. And finally, we have Beastman, which, again, as a tip to Super7 and Funko, really impressive head, which looks almost exactly like how it looked like on the original figure. Just, again, in a black and white treatment. Beastman comes with a whip, and the whip has a real cord on the end. And we'll just put that into his hand. The whip doesn't sit as well in Beastman's hand. I guess you could have it just, I think it's a little too broad, but you can have it like that as well. There's Beastman. They've still got nailed the collar. They've nailed the areas that on the figure would have been the extra shoulder pieces. Again, very cool. I'm looking at this line, and the first thing I'm also thinking of too is vehicles. I don't know what Super 7's plans are when it comes to vehicle additions, but if they can do it, it would be neat to see these guys with vehicles as well. Yeah, certainly fun little pieces, and very clever, the fact that they would have called it by the power of Greyscale, which exactly lives up to, well, the figures definitely live up to that name. Today's collectible spot, we were having a look. There they are right there. Hi guys. We're having a look today at the Super 7 Masters of the Universe by the Power of Greyscale ReAction figures. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more collectible spots heading your way. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.